It's Just Business with Steve Thomas and your host, Chris Larry.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It's Just Business on the Hogstye Network, the show where we look at the dollars and the cents of the sports media business industrial complex as it chugs along. How you doing today, Steve?
Oh, I'm doing all right. We're headed into the heat of the summer down here in Texas. So it's been in the 90s and swampy down here, but it's better than cold. So I can't complain too much. How have you been?
I've been good, normal, fairly, getting along.
You know, they've announced another Journey show, by the way, coming to Houston, and it's a part of their never ending, we're quitting for real this time, tour. And what I've noticed is that the singer Arnel Pineda is, how do we say this? He's been terrible on some of these shows, like to the point where he can't hit the notes anymore. Even auto tune won't fix it, but it's like chugging along, in his death throes. And then I heard your friend Neil Sean talking on the radio in an interview about he's going to form something called Journey Beyond. He's got some ideas about like after this. So it'll be a never ending thing.
It'll be holograms is what it'll be.
There are hologram bands now.
I know. Right. It'll be only in the flesh, Neil Sean and another 6 members of a hologram band.
Because I know like ABBA, I think has some hologram thing in maybe England, maybe Great Britain.
Yeah, they do. I saw when I was in London. I've seen the ads. I haven't seen the show. No.
Okay.
But I've seen the ads.
And I think Kiss is trying to dream up a hologram thing as well, because Kiss would sell anything if they could. They'll sell absolutely anything if they can.
Oh yeah. They'll slap their licensing on whatever.
I can't bring myself to drag myself to a hologram show. I mean, it's literally a tape. It's just basically watching a movie.
Yeah, it's movie. 3D movie, yeah. I guess they did Elvis was the first one, right? And that was even a while ago.
I didn't know they did Elvis.
Yeah, I think that's the first one they did. And that was like 20 years ago. I'm sure the technology's better now, but that I think was the first. But we'll only see more of this. And even that globe in Las Vegas, which I know is not that. The sphere, yes, that's right. But yeah, we're gonna get, AI music is like all over the charts. We're gonna see there's gonna be fabrication of this on every level.
So I have a friend who lives in Vegas, and he's been to several shows at the Sphere, and he saw let me think, he saw the Eagles, he saw No Doubt just like a couple days ago, and I think he went to the Wizard of Oz. I can't remember, but he's had nothing but glowing reports about the thing.
Yeah, no, I think my wife is going in the fall.
And as a matter of fact, he said he got 2 No Doubt tickets for $130 each.
That's actually cheap nowadays.
Yeah, I was just thought he was going to say 600, but no, he got them on some kind of pre-sale thing for $130. But like
how
Metallica's
is
way more. I think it's arena size. I something along the lines of 15,000. I think, because it's big. I've driven by it. It's big place. It's not like a small theater size at all. Chris,
yeah, you're basically right. Fixed seat capacity of 17,600 to 18,600, depending on the event configuration, with a total event capacity of 20,000 when accounting for general admission and standing room floor.
Okay, so it's basketball arena size.
Yeah.
Then. But he said, like, I asked him about Metallica. He said, well, like Metallica's going to be $600 or $700. Like No Doubt is not surprising that it's cheaper, but there's a minimum cost because that place is. The operating costs are enormous, for the performers, for everybody.
Yeah, that's the one my wife is going to, the Metallica one, because as I've established, she works for their management company.
Yeah, well, so she's not going to have to buy a ticket.
No, she's not paying the $600.
I keep saying, I tell everybody who asks, there is no band that I would pay $600 to see. There is no form of 2-hour entertainment product that I would pay $600 to do. I don't care if Jimi Hendrix came back from the dead to do one show at the House of Blues in Houston, Texas, which is down the street from my office. If it costs $600, I'm not doing it. I think that's nuts, personally.
It is pretty crazy. I mean, I could probably come up with scenarios which I would, but I would be upset about it, and I would, as general principle, would a principle I would probably break for the right thing. But yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you. It's ridiculous.
I don't know how people think that's okay. I mean, look, I don't blame the bands for doing it. If people are buying it, make money. It's a free market, thankfully. But man, that's crazy. I'm cheap though, and so are you. So you and
it's
I
gotten crazy.
Yeah.
And I could even make a case for like the top level, right? Like seeing something that's like very rare or once in a lifetime, but it's like the median ticket, right? The average ticket has gotten so crazy where you actually have to think about these things with a normal ticket.
Well, this is actually a business topic here. We're kind of entering into another, but part of the financial model of this now rolls into the fact that nobody's making money on album sales anymore. There's almost no money in the streaming music platforms for these people. Instead of buying a CD now, you're basically 95% of the people at least are streaming it online with your favorite streaming service, whatever it is, Apple, Spotify, there's several of them. And the payouts for that are very, very, very low. And so basically that's why why the model of releasing music has changed, where what they're doing is they're releasing like 6 singles, and then later they'll say, oh yeah, we have an album, you can buy it on our website, because there's just no money in it at all. And so what I've seen about the finances is that basically the only income these bands have is now touring, which used to be a way to sell records, and now it's the opposite.
Yeah. Plus there's so many people taking a cut, so if, at that point you have to, that's driving all those things up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's a music business for the day, kids.
It's depressing. Although one cool thing is, and it's still I acknowledge a drop in the bucket overall, but vinyl sales have been the only physical object of music to rise for I think 7 straight years, and in 2025 topped $1 billion in sales. That's kind of insane.
Y'all who are buying vinyl are suckers, man.
I'm buying it all the time.
I think it's crazy.
I just bought some yesterday.
I have a friend who is really into audio and has spent a significant amount of money on his audio system at home, like a lot of money. And I sat down with him once and we compared CD to vinyl for a number of different albums, like 20 or 30 different albums, because I've got a pretty good ear. He has good ear. And honest to goodness, I mean, there were 2 or 3 of them that I thought the vinyl was slightly better, but for the most part, the CD was better, or it was about the same. And that's playing through his $15,000 system, that he has. You do that through a normal system.
They do degrade faster, though.
The vinyl, yeah.
CDs,
oh, yeah.
No CDs.
I don't know.
They do. Their shelf life is about 25 years. But I am not an audiophile. So
this guy is an audiophile.
I'm a collector. So there's a somewhat different mentality.
Story. Yeah. I mean, because there's people who swear the audio is better. And I'm here to tell you, after that hour we spent or whatever doing that, I'm convinced it's not better. I mean, what obviously made the real difference is how the album was recorded in the first place. Like Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, outstanding recording. The audio quality is really great, but you play some others, it's just, no matter if it's vinyl or CD, it's just not good quality.
Yeah, source material is the number one.
Yeah,
number one reason.
Right. So if you want to collect them because you want to collect them, you have at it. But if you're doing it because you think you're getting a superior audio quality, for the most part, you're not.
No, that is not even. In fact, I would actually argue that I prefer the snaps and the crackles. So I probably even prefer the downgraded quality or the difference.
I mean, that's your preference.
Yeah.
But for the group, there's a group of people out there who are convinced that it's better quality.
No, it's not. I would agree with that. Or 6 1/2 dozen the other at the best.
Yes. At best.
And to your point, it doesn't. It ultimately, the delivery mechanic of the music is not the thing that's going to determine its overall quality. It's the recording techniques, the masters, yada yada.
Yeah, and my friend's $15,000 system is going to make everything sound pretty good, for the most part.
Yeah, I do not have a 15,000.
he has some money that to blow and stuff like that. That I
He's
don't
got the
have.
subwoofers and the amps, the
Oh,
tube
I went
amps
with
and
him
all
to buy
that.
some of this stuff. I mean, his wife wasn't happy that I encouraged him to buy it. Put it that way.
Yeah, you're okay spending other people's money, right?
Yeah, not mine. I'm not doing it. But I was like, heck yeah, let's buy it, man. If you're ready, let's do it.
um, well, speaking of other people's money, I guess is we've got baseball. I predict in the and we're not talking balls and strikes here. We're talking about CBAs. This is going to be a story now, at least for the next year, a regular story. And we've been talking about it even for the year leading up to this. But we're starting to get where the rubber meets the road in the negotiations between labor and management. And Steve, it looks like management has put their kind of opening salvo offer on the table, and to absolutely nobody's surprise, although it is new since they haven't tried this the last couple of negotiations, but a salary cap is officially in Major League Baseball's first proposal.
Yeah, get ready for a lockout, kids. Okay, so this was in multiple places, but what I'm reading from here is from Bleacher Report, because I know everybody can access this. MLB proposes salary cap as part of CBA negotiations with players. Full details revealed by Timothy Rapp, dated May 28th, 2026. So yeah, this, what I didn't realize is I thought the owners had proposed this several times over the past few negotiations, but this story, first of all, says they have not requested a formal salary cap since 1994, which is 32 years ago. And what we've said to you guys before is that, in the story says here, the MLBPA has repeatedly insisted would never accept a salary cap, which obviously sets the stage for a walkout. The last time, recall, 94 was the season that was the year that practically the entire season got canceled because of this. So what they're doing this the smart way, the proposal. There's they have called for a cap, but also a floor. Okay. And so what they've called for is a salary cap that limits payrolls to 245.3 million 27, with a floor of 171.2 million. Now, to set the stage here, the Dodgers and the Mets have the highest salaries, have the highest payrolls in the league. They're both over 300 million. So they'd be way 55 million over the cap. In contrast, 15 teams are below the 171.2 million proposal. 6 teams are below 100 million. The Miami Marlins payroll of 78.8 million, which you could take Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts, and together they're probably getting close to 78 million, okay, with the Dodgers. The Mets, 334.1 million. And then you've got they've got some interesting data. So you add the Marlins, the Cleveland Guardians, the White Sox, and the Nationals combined have a payroll, combined all of them together, 342.5 million. Okay. And so everybody knows this would mean more revenue sharing. But the bottom line is that MLBPA just said no, period, dot the end. For this right now. Now they're proposing increased luxury taxes here, the Players Association, but that's not going to be good enough. Let's stop there. Your thoughts?
I mean, this is. I mean, it's the most obvious thing, and it's notable that it's been 34 years, right? So, I mean, that, as you said, that was the missed year in the World Series, blah blah blah,
Yeah,
the big
32,
lockout,
but yeah,
and everything that's come forward. So, I think Major League Baseball, has wanted it since then. It's not like their desire has been any less, but they've deemed that labor harmony over that time, they needed that long to recover, basically. And now they're ready to try it again. I think the world, in the world of baseball, in the world of sports, in the world of the cost of sports, make this a radically different time to introduce this. I don't see a way in which there isn't a version. It could be a soft NBA like version, of course, right? It could have all kinds of caveats, but I think there will be something that you could confidently call a salary cap in the CBA. I don't think the players are going to be able to stand in front of it this time. And and I would, if I was advising them, I think it's time to drop this. If I was advising the players, it's time to drop this. I do think the competitive balance of the league, and if I was advising the players, I'd be saying your battleground is the floor, right? So I would be picking a fight about where the floor is going to be, where the, so you can, because that's the way in which you can, you can guarantee higher wages across the board, right? If you're going to make the
I don't think they care about that too much. So because the truth of the matter is, I think a lot of these union leaders are senior players, and they care somewhat about the minimum salary guys. But I think the truth is they care more about themselves, which is the higher level contracts.
That may be true. I'm just saying what I would advise them.
What you,
because I think it's going to happen either way.
I have some more details on that. Not everybody out there is you're going to have to sign into or have an account with Front Office Sports, but I broke down and threw the hogsty into it, which means I'm going to get barraged by more emails from them. The Front Office Sports has a story, has some more details than the Bleacher Report one. This one is called MLBPA's initial proposal sets the stage for a high stakes labor fight by Eric Fisher, dated May 27th. Now in here, they've got the MLBPA's key terms offered by the players. So you ready? Near doubling of the minimum salary, to your point, of the minimum salary from this year's $780,000 to $1.5 million in 2027, with a path to further boost in the future. And to your soft cap point, they've proposed a new competitive integrity tax levied upon clubs that fail to meet minimum payroll benchmarks. Basically, soft floor. Free agency eligibility, or any player who's reached 30 and has 5 or more years of service time. A substantially revised vision for Major League Baseball's current revenue sharing program that reduces the amount of gate revenue that's shared. In turn, this is a quote, in turn, incentivizing teams to field competitive clubs and boost attendance while increasing the amount of local TV money that's pooled, which the teams would hate that with a passion. This would guarantee every small market club at least $240 million in annual revenue. And then expanded draft lottery, increases to luxury tax thresholds. So what I think, in response to your point, which I agree with, that the Players Association needs to bow down and do it, the floor and the cap, they're going to say, well, our luxury tax is us doing it. And so they're really arguing about an effective soft cap and soft floor versus a hard cap and hard floor. That's what they would say. They're already complying with what you're suggesting.
And I would say that if that's labor's that's their first counter proposal, or what they're fronting with, that to me is more evidence that we're going to move to something that you could.
They already have a luxury tax, though. That's not even new.
No, but it shows me they're willing to move on this issue.
Yeah, I know you may be right, but on the other hand, though, I mean, again, they're basically saying it's like, saying you're going to pay your car note a little bit because there is a luxury tax already. Some of these teams, like the Dodgers, don't care at all about the luxury tax. They just blow right through it. Doesn't matter. Every once in a while they'll reset, and that's it. So yes, I agree with what you're saying. But on the other hand, their opening salvo isn't a lot different from what the current existing model is in the first place. So they're not going to go backwards from the existing model.
No. But I also think it's interesting that, I think we said this maybe last time we talked about this, but I think we set this up as a battle between labor and management. Of course it is, right? They all are, yeah. But I think you have some really interesting debates within the owners, right? Because, that may ultimately be more important, because, you got to convince the Dodgers and the Yankees, who have their own, they own their own media, basically. They own their own
TV networks. The Dodgers have a huge contract with Time Warner, but
right.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? They control the favorable deals at worst. And if you're going to go to something that is a steps towards an NFL model or more more revenue sharing, then that's obviously going to be in media, right? So that's where the majority of that sharing is going to take place. So you've got to convince those teams and ownership groups that have sweetheart deals, whether it's either a sweetheart deal or self-ownership of their media rights. Like, I think any deal that has a salary cap that the players eventually will say yes to is going to have some kind of media. Let's call it be specific media revenue sharing, and
It's the
probably
only
other
way to
things.
make it work.
Yeah, and that has to be settled within the ownership within the league before it can be settled with the players.
Well, and so the front office sports column has a quote from Major League Baseball in it. So it's Major League Baseball spokesman Glenn Kaplan said, quote, "We understand their proposals are designed to benefit players. Unfortunately, they do not address and in fact exacerbate the competitive balance problem our fans are telling us we must address. The MLBPA's proposal would reduce the amount transferred to lower revenue clubs, weaken the competitive balance tax, and lead to even more payroll disparity than exists today." So that's in part is just negotiating blather. Okay, they probably don't mean all that, but it means that there's a long way to go here. And I agree with what you're saying in terms of the owner, because yeah, you need to convince the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox and the Cubs basically to share more revenue, right? But on the other hand, you also need to convince the owners of teams like the Marlins in Cleveland and the others that they're going to have to spend more, even though they don't want to. Because some of these owners can spend more, they don't want to. I mean, some of these owners don't care about winning; they care about profits for themselves. And so I think there's that part of it too that would need to be solved amongst the owners, not just the high revenue, but the lower revenue teams need to be cajoled into saying baseball comes first, not your pocketbook, basically.
Totally fair, which is just another data point that says that owners are going to have to get on. There's going to have to be versions of the owners getting on the same page before any deal is struck here.
Yeah, because the NFL converted to communism a long time ago, and so this is not an issue here. They're all subscribed to the theory of Karl Marx there, and in the NFL, the way it works is most of the revenue is shared, and then there's some stuff that's carved out that isn't shared. But for the most, that all of the media rights are shared. The local advertising rights for the most part is not. That's you can thank Jerry Jones for this in the NFL. But they've already kind of come to that. And the problem, like I think we said this in the last show, the problem with this is how do you design a model that is going to share local baseball media rights? Because the NFL does not allow teams to hold their own broadcast television rights. The NFL holds them, so it's easy to distribute those profits. But all these teams have separate media deals. So what do you say? You have to pick a percentage of your local media rights go to the communist.
It's pool. Like you transfer the luxury tax to the media rights, not the salaries.
Basically. And I think that's less appeasing to some of these owners. I would assume. I mean, you and I don't know any of them, but I made to assume that's less appealing to some owners than others.
Right, especially when
the Dodgers want to share, that much.
And a key difference between here football and baseball is well, there's many differences, but you don't have the huge players like lining up to spend big bucks to buy the whole league or buy a piece of the whole league's media rights, right? So you don't have that business landscape out there for baseball. Now baseball's trying to catch up, right? They'd love to be there.
We talked about it a few weeks ago, pooling local media rights.
I think they're getting their ducks in a row, so to speak, to be able. But as of right now, you don't have that.
But that pool, it's just also the small market teams that don't have the big deal. They haven't pooled the Yankees and the Dodgers yet, nor are they going to anytime soon. The long-term answer to solve what you're suggesting, maybe baseball's going to have to pool all the local rights.
Yeah, or yes, they're going to have to because they don't have that. There isn't that. At least you can say to the NFL owners, and I'm sure there's a couple of owners that would love to own their own media, right? Like
of course. I mean, Jerry Jones would love to own their media
rights. But you can't say, look, you're never going to make the nut that we can get by leveraging the networks, Amazon and the rest of them, right? Like for one-stop shopping deals that
it's just
pay you for 10 years
model. I mean, there's 182 games or 162 games a year. It's every day of the week. I mean, it's a different broadcast model. The NFL has the way they've designed it, they own Sunday. It's a lot easier to control the media rights for that kind of model, I think, than it is for baseball. And also, I mean, just to be honest, the market isn't as big. You can't nationally market the Miami Marlins. on a highlight Sunday, the Marlins and the Marlins and the Milwaukee Brewers, all five of you are going to watch that game. I mean, that's not going to be broadcast nationally. Like
yeah, to your point, especially when that game really, ultimately doesn't mean that much in the overall standings, as opposed to Green Bay versus Tampa Bay. Actually, even a one game regular season game has lots of implications.
Yeah, of course. But even that though, when you pick the lower teams that in the NFL that have bad records, if you look at the broadcast maps, those games are really only broadcast in the two cities.
Yeah, right. Maybe a little bit of spillover if they represent large swaths of region, just based on being in the middle of the country.
Right, but they're not broadcasting those games nationally. They're just kind of thrown into the mix.
It's whatever is defined as that team's market.
Yeah.
There's two interesting things. One, if I was, again, I guess I'm available, players union. But another thing I would be saying, and I don't think you'd ever get this, but you ask for crazy things to try to get what you want in negotiations, right? I would say, why not look at a European football model? If the Florida Marlins of the world are going to plan to suck as a business model,
saying tiers,
regulate them. There's a vibrant enough minor league system in the United States. Why shouldn't you knock down the bottom two? Why you send the Florida Marlins to the top AAA league and pull up a league? Now, I'm not saying this should work or would work, but if I was these are the kind of things I'd be throwing out there.
Okay, so what Chris is talking about, for those of you who aren't soccer fans, which nobody should be a soccer fan because it's not a sport and it's a terrible thing to watch people run around for 90 minutes and do nothing. But and don't ask me the specifics of this, but what he's talking about is that European soccer has tiers. And so the top teams, like I know like the Manchester United, for example, are in the top tier, and you can get relegated. That may not be the term they use, but you can It is. Yeah. You can get relegated down to a lower tiered league, meaning a less competitive league, if you stink and don't do well under some criterion for some period of time. And then they might bring another team up. So what Chris is suggesting is something along those lines, where you dump the Miami Marlins of the world into the second tier, Major League Baseball light. And then if they do better, they can come back up to the land of the Dodgers. For example,
because if the Florida Marlins of the world have already done all the calculations to say we can be bad and make money, right? Which is essentially what's happening. Right. Yes. And even what Major League Baseball already has in place, and even what the players are suggesting here to make more strident or have more teeth, so to speak, would be more taxes on doing bad. But that obviously hasn't worked, right? So you could be in the league or out of the league. It would be an interesting, put the Florida Marlins in AAA and bring the Toledo Mud Hens up to major leagues. You
may have to create some other
you'd have like a sub, like an intermediate. Yeah, that's true. But again, the ecosystem of baseball is so big, right? It wouldn't be that hard to pull together your B league.
No, but I don't know too many fans would be in favor of that, because I think what the fans would say is, now you're just, they already have a problem with the high spending teams are the best teams, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and then you're sort of stuck with that. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a bargaining technique, not a solution.
Not realism. It's not real. That's not going to happen in reality. But you could propose it and say, here's what we can do.
If these teams are bringing the league down, then punish them, right? Like that's the message.
Yeah, you could throw it out there, and if you did, if the Players Association threw it out there, it would cause chaos. And sometimes chaos in a business negotiation isn't a terrible thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, sometimes you do that. You create chaos in order to get something moving.
So they'll never do it, but it would be funny.
Yeah, I've done it. By the way, just for the record, our third cast member is here. He's just asleep next to me. So if he hears something, it's possible he may chime in, as he deems appropriate.
Now, this is a little bit of a sidestep from this topic, but and before we move on, it is related to some degree. Did you see I thought of you when I saw the quote, I think this week, or at least since the last time we recorded, Jason Kelce kind of spanking the NFL about abandoning
No,
Sundays. You didn't see this quote?
no. What happened? What did he say?
So he had a quote. I think he was on some. I don't know if it was his own podcast or maybe a TV hit or whatever. But he said that the NFL is getting dangerously close to killing the golden goose, which is Sunday, which has been one of your points for a long time, right? So, and he said, he had a moment, a warning. He said, like if you devalue, if the trend is to continue to devalue the Sunday experience of football, you're starting to get dangerously close to a line. I'm butchering his quote, but it was really. Now this is somebody who has a pretty big platform in the NFL, right? At this point, he's
This
got
is
his own
Jason,
show.
not Travis.
Yeah, this is Jason. Yeah,
Jason.
so he's already in media, right? He's on media. He's got his own podcast. He's on networks. He's a face of the league. Blah blah blah. Him to say that was a shot across the bow, and I thought of you the second I saw the quote.
Yeah, because I've been saying this for years. And I'm going to take credit for Jason saying that because I called Taylor Swift and asked her to feed that to her fiance's brother, and she said yes. And so I'm going to take credit for that. No, obviously not. But I mean, yeah, that's what I've been saying for years. It's like eating too much chocolate cake. Chocolate cake's only fun if you have it every once in a while. If it's a special treat, if you give your kid chocolate cake forever after every meal, at some point, it's not a treat anymore. And that's kind of what I've been saying about football. Is you start having games 4 days a week, and you put all the good games in some other day. Well, all of a sudden, Sunday morning really isn't that, or Sunday afternoon really isn't that special. And that's kind of what Jason's saying.
Yeah, so here it is because it's not long. I'll give it to you. Sunday is the day. So this is the quote. Sunday is the day of football. It is an institution at this point. The NFL playing games on Sunday. With every day that we keep adding in there, we're getting away from that just a little bit. And I worry that I think the game got big. And I worry that I think the game got big. One of the reasons it got so popular and big was because of all of the games. It was an event. Sunday is the NFL.
Yep, I completely agree with him. I think it's a serious business issue for the league. And a lot of media outlets. I mean, you can say this about movies. You can say this about TV. How many times and how many movie franchises have we seen where they make 3 too many sequels to a great movie, right? Or, in the case of TV, there's 1 too many spinoffs of a show. Well, it's because the people who own these products are trying to cash in, and I respect that from a marketing standpoint. But sometimes you got to look at the superhero genre. They've gone way overboard with superhero genre, and in the last few have all been bombs. Well, sometimes less is more. Sometimes you need to leave something alone. And that's what I've been saying, and that's sort of what Jason Kelce's saying here about it. Like, stop making Star Wars movies because you're devaluing the franchise. That's kind of what the point is.
Actually, the current Mandalorian movie, I think, opened last weekend.
It did poorly.
No, it did very well.
No, it did not. It did really poorly.
It did the best of the Star Wars movies of the. It's actually making your point.
No,
because they haven't been a Star Wars movie.
We need to look at, because what I read, I think it had very poor box office from what I understand. Now we're going to find out who's right.
Well, you should be reading for me to be right, because it makes your point, because there actually hasn't been a Star Wars movie in like 8 years.
We're saying the same thing. It might be, yes, but that movie I thought had poor box office, because I saw a story that said some random horror movie called like Obsession or something had beaten it at the box office
in its second week. It's made 167 million worldwide since opening,
which was what, 3 weeks ago now?
Last weekend. Memorial Day weekend.
So it dropped off significantly in week 2, which is not abnormal. Chris is staring at a computer screen.
Yeah, sorry. It's like we're versions of us both being right, but I would argue that I would actually argue, because it didn't get very well reviewed. I would argue that the only reason it did mediocre, let's call it, is actually because there hasn't been a Star Wars movie in the theater.
Okay, well, that I'll go along with. Sure. Yeah. I mean, my macro point is, sometimes you got to know when to say when. In the immortal words of Kenny Rogers, Sometimes you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And so your point is that they haven't made a Star Wars movie in God knows how long because they all started to really stink. And so this one, which got really poorly reviewed and got beaten, with a wet noodle by a bunch of reviewers, but it did mediocre at least because there hadn't been one in a while. Yeah. So fair enough. But so the point to get it back to sports is that's sort of what Jason Kelce's saying. If you which is what you and I've been saying forever on this show, which is, have games all the time and it ceases to be special, especially, the Sunday is football and you're kind of getting away from it.
I think this coming season, I think the only day of the week that doesn't have a game
Got to be Wednesday.
No, there's a Wednesday game. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah, I think some way the holiday
Christmas or something.
Yeah, it's where the holidays fall out, right? But yeah, the only day of the week in the 2026 season that won't have a game, I think, is Tuesday.
See, that's just not good.
It's crazy.
It's way too much.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Real quickly on Jason Kelce, he's now the co-owner along with Bill Murray and then this famous golf writer on a 9-hole course that's literally a mile from where I sit right now. They just profiled the golf writer and his purchase and redesigning of this 9-hole course here on CBS Sunday Morning a couple weeks ago.
Very good.
I can't believe it's happening, but it's funny.
People like that have investments all over the place. Like Alex Rodriguez owned a Mercedes dealership in Houston for a while. He's not from Houston. It was never there. It's just an investment, and there's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think Murray and Kelce did it in this one just for fun and to be in business with this famous golf writer.
Yeah, well, and in the case of it was Rodriguez Mercedes, for a while. I mean, they used his name, but
A-Rod's a fascinating case in public reputation washing.
He's a complete idiot from an intellectual standpoint.
You should tell me, compare and contrast why he's still fine, but Barry Bonds is a pariah. It makes no sense. Anyway, let's move on. We've gotten spiraling.
Started on that, man. Just dawned on me what you just said. I have a whole rant. Let's move on. Otherwise, this show's never gonna
end. We've been tracking. We always track franchise valuations, but we got a bit of a look behind the curtain as we are seeing. Was it 30%? Stake in the Raiders, selling to a new group, but it starts to give you, whenever this happens, you start to get an inside look on valuations, and this one was the sale, the partial sale, was valued at a $9 billion plus valuation, right?
Almost 9.9 billion.
And overall, I think even saying 11 billion if it was a sale, right? Because there's always the valuations are always going to be a little less on a partial sale.
All right, so this is CNBC Sport has a story. The story is called "Group led by Egon Durban to buy 25% of Las Vegas Raiders at $9.9 billion valuation." Sources say. It's a very long title. By Michael Ozanian, who we've done stories before, dated May 14th. This is a while ago, and we just missed this the first time. Okay, so this is actually another minority shareholder selling the stake to Durban. Okay, so something called First Football, which is the largest minority share in the Raiders, is selling 25% to Durban for 9.9 billion valuation. The Raiders as a team are valued at 9.3 billion, according to CNBC, which is fourth, subject to NFL approval. NFL owners. Which the NFL owners meeting has already happened after we did this. So I'm assuming this went through, most likely. Now the setup to this here, which is said in the story, this is a bit fascinating. Number one, part of the relocation agreement with the Raiders to move from Oakland to Vegas 6 years ago includes a kickback to the NFL for any sale of a piece of the Raiders through March of 2037. In other words, that doesn't happen for every sale. The Dolphins sale from one owner to another, it's a sale between the parties. And
this was part of their allowing them to move to Vegas,
yes,
right? Yeah,
right. The NFL will get a piece of the sale. They're calling it a flip tax here in this. That's number one. And number two is, I'm trying to find it in here. This is a setup. Okay. There is an agreement in place already. I can't find it in here. There's an agreement already in place with Durban. No, let me see here. Oh man. Okay, yeah, here it is. All right. So it says according to the story, CNBC, this is a quote, CNBC reported in March that the NFL approved a succession plan for the sale of the Raiders by Davis to Durban, who is the co-CEO of something called Silver Lake, at a valuation of over 11 billion, as well as approving Durban getting an option to buy out Davis should Davis decide to sell his controlling stake. And so the NFL's already approved Durban, and this sounds like a way that Durban is going sort of collecting his assets, so to speak, in preparation for some point down the road, the Davis family. Who's the name of the idiot's son now? I can't remember. Mark Davis is another idiot. To set Mark Davis eventually to bow out of the Raiders to make Durban the controlling owner at some point in the future. So that's this.
Yeah, we're getting the details now, but this has obviously been in the works. But the
story is the valuation. Look, I mean, the Washington team, the Washington Seawards, sold for 5.8 billion plus a few hundred million that was tied up in options, because of all the scandals that had to be resolved. So it came out to, I think, 6.1 billion total.
Yeah, just call it 6 billion to be clean.
Right, 6 billion. A few years ago, 3 years ago now. And now we've got the Raiders at 9.9, 10, I'll call it 10. 9.9 billion is 10, so that's 4 billion more. So that is 2/3 higher than what Washington sold for 3 years ago.
Yeah, that long tail of 24 minority owners made, even if they bought in at peanuts, made a smart move.
Yes. and you mentioned this before the show, Chris, so I'm going to mention it here. Tom Brady made out like a bandit in this. So Tom Brady bought, and his business partner, who's somebody named Tom Wagner, I've never heard of, bought 10%, because we did a story about the media conflict of interest of him, being an owner of the team and still broadcasting. He bought, and I know I was going to quiz you, but I know you already read it. He bought 10% of the Raiders at a $3.5 billion valuation.
Wow.
Talk about a sweetheart deal to get a big name celebrity involved in your ownership. That's what that is.
That's a little bit more than I thought he owned, too, quite frankly. I would have guessed at 5.
This is kind of the NFL equivalent of like a wealthy actor walking into a restaurant and getting a free meal, because they like the wealthy famous actor in the restaurant, whereas you and I walk in there, we're going to pay price. That's kind of that's what Tom Brady got. Okay.
Yeah. Plus he gets to cook the food too, apparently.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because this isn't years ago. This is 2024, which is after the sale of the Washington team. So this is a sweetheart deal because he's Tom Brady, period, dot, the end.
And let's just assume for a second that we can never assume this about Snyder. So let's just assume that there was generic owner X that sold the Commanders at the time that they did.
Okay.
They would have easily, it might not have been a ton more, but it would have been closer to 8 than 6. There was just so much devalue. Yeah, and all that. So, it was a devalued franchise, which just makes Josh Harris look, even smarter because it wasn't, and in fact, it didn't. It wasn't going to, it only was going to take a couple years and the league to advance that.
You brought up a good point. Washington kind of got sold on the clearance sale aisle a little bit because not only was Dan Snyder a train wreck and caused all these scandals and a bunch of lawsuits that had to be resolved, also the team had stunk
and a bad stadium and a whole nine. Yeah.
Right. And so, if you sold them today, Josh Harris would cash in.
It would, the absolute floor would start at 10 billion.
Yeah, because they've got a stadium deal in place. There's no more scandals. We're not talking about, prostitutes in rooms in Colorado anymore. None of that is, had no illicit naked cheerleader video. All of that is over. So yeah, it would be 10 billion.
Yeah, that's where the conversation
if I were Josh Harris, I might do it just to sell it, just to cash in, man.
Right, man. Talk about your flip. Yeah, no, I think it's crazy. I think everything about the Raiders on this is crazy. I think Mark Davis. I think the Davis family. That's probably the best way to say it, because Mark Davis is just a kind of a meat locker. Yeah. Will be out of the NFL, which is kind of wild to think about, and I'm really attributing this to Al, but the Davis family has been integral to the NFL going back to the AFL, NFL days, right? So, see, but I think within 10 years, the Davises won't be in the NFL.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. This is saying there's a succession plan in place already. It doesn't say how long it's going to take, but like Al Davis, he was a maverick and he rocked a lot of boats, but he was a smart guy. Whereas Mark Davis is a moron. And it's like he's the very dumber son of a very smart guy. And so I don't think the NFL really wants the Davis family. I think the NFL could do without the Davis family, put that way.
Yeah, totally. So I think this would be like take out the trash. Yeah.
Like George Steinbrenner, maverick, true, but very, very, very smart guy, very smart, savvy businessman. The two, aren't there two of them now?
Two sons, yeah.
And they're a shell of their father in terms of acumen, I think.
Also, which I agree with, but it's also both these sets of sons just don't care, right? They're not in. Yes. These are just huge financial assets that they inherited that make them a lot of money and that they need to steward. The thing about Steinbrenner and Davis is
cared a lot about.
They were in it because they wanted to be involved in these leagues, right? They didn't. These were not investments, right? And in fact, when both of them got into it, sports wasn't at this kind of crazy. It was kind of like Jerry Buss as well. You could get your act together and get these things, and you're doing it because you want to be involved in the sport, not because it's a giant investment.
And that's certainly not the Steinbrenners. It's Mark Davis is doing it because he doesn't have anything else to do with his life, and then this. And I agree completely, because Steinbrenner and Davis are in it to win.
Yeah,
and our third cast member,
and to control the league, right, and to say where the leagues should go.
And our third cast member just perked up at that, by the way. So he's agreeing that
big Yankees fan.
Yeah, he's a Yankee. Well, he's not a Yankees fan because he wouldn't be allowed in the house. But I mean, but he's agreeing that Steinbrenner was an owner who was in it to win it. Put it that way.
In fact, the baby Steinbrenners have actually quietly walked back. They don't want to pay, going back to our original conversation about baseball. They actually don't want to pay the luxury tax. They're kind of in a pickle because the expectations about the Yankees and stuff, but they would love to avoid the luxury tax and have actually done things to do so.
I want to see him sell just to see what the Yankees would sell for. Can you imagine what the New York Yankees would sell for?
Yeah, it would be crazy.
It would be nuts. I mean, I think it would be the highest. I think it would beat the Raiders. I think it would be the highest sale of any American team.
Probably. I think the only reason you'd go, I don't know, just because the NFL versus Major League Baseball, but in every other metric, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, but tell you what, we got to move on here because we've got another story to do. But I'm going to valuation of New York Yankees.
I think we've seen, but I think it's 12 billion, something like that. I think.
Well, AI tells me through Sportico that they've valued it at 8.5 and 9.4 billion. So I think it'd be a lot more than that.
And we don't even know when that was,
And we didn't, and who knows when that is? That's just an AI thing. So
yeah. All right, so there you go. So we kind of have like what some of these stories today are like, just the sort of monopoly funny moneyness of this, especially for normies like us, financial normies at least.
Yes.
This next story is that apparently Shedeur Sanders, out of some like bizarre payout program that I never even knew existed about basically league-wide licensing and then players getting the cut of what drove that licensing, I guess. Shedeur Sanders is apparently the champion of league-wide, selling the most baseball cards or player being played on Madden. I'm not quite sure how they get to this, but man, Shedeur Sanders is a number one draft pick in that regard.
This is things that'll make you sick for 1,000, Alex. Okay, so Front Office Sports has this story too, so it's another one you got to sign in for. Shedeur Sanders banked record $17.7 million in NFLPA group licensing income by Daniel Kaplan, dated May 30th. Okay, so and I knew that there was group licensing. We never talked about it. I never really looked into it, but the bottom line is certain companies will approach the NFLPA for licensing. For example, EA Sports. Okay. And so there's, Fanatics, EA Sports, Panini, which is the card company. They come to NFLPA and say, we want to license all your players. And so the business deals with the NFLPA, and the NFLPA has an obligation to distribute the income to the players. However, it's not an equal distribution, because you pick the left guard of the Packers is not anywhere near as high profile name as Shedeur Sanders. And so in this case, he's the one last season was the number one earner according to the NFLPA group marketing deals. Okay. Now, the story goes to say that it's usually a rookie, because nobody has the rookie jerseys. It's that. And in the case of Sanders, he's a terrible quarterback. I wouldn't want him in my kitchen, but he's a very, very high profile name. And that is the point here they're making, is that he was such a high profile name that he earned, what did I say, 17.7 million. Now, last year it was JJ McCarthy. The record
but by a third, right?
Right, yeah. McCarthy was at 4 million. Tom Brady had the prior record set in 2021, 9.5 million. So Shedeur Sanders shattered the record, almost doubled Tom Brady's record. I recognize that he is a high profile guy. I am stunned, absolutely floored that this would be the case. I mean, the guy barely started last year. Yes, he's Deion Sanders' son. Almost didn't get drafted. This boggles my mind. It really does.
I'm doing a little bit of digging, and
by the way, while you're doing a digging, this doesn't include individual marketing deals. This is just a group marketing deals. So that doesn't include all the money he's making on other deals he has.
So one thing I'm finding is that it's something called, he has a prime equity clause. He reportedly negotiated an exclusive intellectual property deal in his rookie contract that grants him immediate direct commissions on his own merchandise sales rather than waiting for the standard royalty pools. So I don't know how that plays in here.
But yeah, the story doesn't go into that.
Yeah, and then they say basically because of the national brand and then the NIL money that he was able to generate while at Colorado, it gave him basically, and then having those deals in place gave him basically a running start. That's probably why we're seeing like 3 times the norm.
Yeah. Now, also, the income's just gone up, because this story, the front office sports story, goes on to say the number 2 last year was Patrick Mahomes. Is that no? Sorry, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is number 2 at 12.8 million.
Same Colorado factory, right? So there's probably some similarities on how they structure these things.
And then Mahomes, through his LLC, was in 3rd place at 8 million. So the money number has just gone way, way, way up. I'm just floored that a guy. This just goes to show you this guy is failing upward, right? I mean, he failed as a quarterback last year, at least. And the reward for that was more money than any other player in terms of group marketing. But yeah, it sounds like the Colorado marketing factory is in place. Yeah.
So this probably, if we were to, which we are sort of breaking it down, but if you were really going to get it, this is probably more a story about NIL and the changing landscapes of college sports finances than it is actually about the NFL.
Probably so, because what you're sort of basically in simple terms saying is that these guys, Hunter and Sanders, are already set up and have a marketing machine set up because of the NIL work. And certainly Deion Sanders probably, was in the middle of it.
You can't separate that out.
You're right. Had already gotten his marketing juices flowing, for lack of a better term, and so that propelled itself into this. I think that's sort of in simple terms what you're saying.
Yes, if it was Shedeur Andrews,
nobody would, and who failed, and you got a chance to start in 3 games and failed, nobody would care.
Right, and you take Sanders Sr. out of it as coach of Colorado, and you put Shedeur Andrews, even having the same career, making the same NIL, and then you put Travis Hunter in there too. They would be doing fine, right? I'm not saying that, but it would not be this scenario.
No, and I think just all the attention Sanders got alone probably is causing this.
I mean,
it doesn't have much to do with his play on the field.
I mean, we talked about, I mentioned this in the last show, but it's very hard to, just the nature of the sport of NFL, of football, it's hard to rise above the chorus, right? It's a chorus sport, right? It's 12 on 12. It's highly, so like raising above, getting your name above the chorus is massively important, right? Like that's, because generally these are nameless, faceless players. So anything that gets you name recognition above the chorus is going to be profitable.
Okay. So just to make everybody sick, I pulled up Sanders' stats from last year. You ready for this? 8 games played, 7 games started, completion percentage of 56.6, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, interception percentage of 4.7, which is very high. Quarterback rating of 68.1. So for that performance, he was the highest earner in the NFL for group marketing. Gross.
Might be something the players union might want to look at, advocating for a change in that program.
Some better way to better distribute money. Yeah, somehow. Right.
Might
Can you imagine how much that irritates some of the veterans?
Yeah, I would have, but even the JJ McCartney of it all, I guess maybe just winning the national, whatever his name is, another bad quarterback, just winning the national championship probably, but even that surprised me that he would have been the leader last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, this story, the original story we cited, Front Office Sports says most years it's a rookie.
Yeah,
and so it's basically the highest profile rookie. In this case, it was Sanders.
Yeah, but that was the Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, right? Like, so.
Yeah, I don't know. maybe McCarthy had a better,
winning the national championship is a thing, right? So that helps.
And by the way, and I know we got to wrap it up here, but this data according to the story, came from the NFL Players Association annual report filed with the Department of Labor. So that's where this data is coming from. It's not a league.
No. It's because they had to report these things about their payouts.
Yeah, because they're a union, and the the Labor Department controls this union stuff.
Fascinating stuff. Well, let's see who can we predict for next year. That'd be interesting.
I don't even know, man, because I don't even know who the rookies are, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, I mean, I guess Mendoza would be your safe bet.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was thinking who's in the draft next year, but yeah, Mendoza would be the guy.
Yeah. Especially with the only real quarterback of note.
By far the highest profile player.
Yeah. So we'll see there. All right, Steve, it's probably a little bit the quiet days, although I guess OTAs just kicked off, and apparently everyone's focused on winning.
It's not a little bit the quiet days. It's a lot the quiet days. Okay. We really had to, we had to have a meeting about what are we going to talk about. Thank goodness there were OTAs. But see, this is the difference when you have a team that's run by professionals. And
they don't output stories nearly at the same rate.
No. Yeah, that's exactly right. And we talk about these stories on the Hogstye podcast, which is available every Thursday, and then all of our regular written content.
All right. T-Burks is the superstar coming. I'm telling you, I'm all in on T-Burks this year.
Treylon Burks, huh? Okay, we'll see.
All right, Steve, we will see you in 2 weeks.